I don't solve problems. I am changing my way of thinking. And then the problems are solved by themselves. Louise Hay. When I look back on my life, I realize that striving for perfection was my worst enemy. Now my life is actually completely different, and I accept the new me with great joy and gratitude. I love myself the way I am. I am happily married, doing what I do best and enjoying it. Here's how I achieved it. 1. Relinquish the desire to be perfect in everything. I am perfectly beautiful and beautifully imperfect, and that is what allows me to be myself. Finally, I was able to take a deep breath when I realized that perfection is a mirage, an illusion, a shaky haze on the horizon, that it simply doesn't exist. I stopped filling my life with stress, unsuccessfully trying to become perfect, and now my ideal is good enough. I learned to accept my mistakes as opportunities for growth, opportunities to learn something new and become wiser. If I fail at something, it does not mean that I myself am a failure, because I am not what I do. Sometimes we win, sometimes we learn something new and valuable, but we never lose. 2. I gave up the desire to be constantly loaded, no matter what. I realized that being constantly busy with things, and not doing anything, is not at all a sign of industriousness, and not at all dignity. Therefore, I learned to listen to my body, and I am no longer ashamed if I do nothing. I am no longer ashamed to rest if I need it. I know that sometimes I need to recharge the batteries of my body and soul, and I don't think that I have to justify myself to anyone for this, even to myself. Now, if I don't have time for myself, I gnaw this time out of my schedule. I create it myself. I watch a good movie, listen to relaxing music, read a good book, sing in the shower or karaoke, walk in the park to reconnect with nature. In short, I do what makes my heart sing like a bird. 3. Refused self-criticism. Oh, I, as before, carefully listen to the inner voice, but that's all. I do not curse myself with the last words, and treat myself with attention and respect. I stopped saying things to myself that I would never say, not only to a friend, but even to an acquaintance. I realized that I am a whole, sufficient and complete person. I realized that our life is not always fair, and we do not always get what we want. We get what we think we deserve. That is why it is so important to believe in yourself, and consider yourself worthy of only the best that this life has to offer. 4. Gave up the desire to blame other people. Now I clearly know that every time I blame another person for something, I portray myself as a victim. Blaming others for taking my time, money, or my love is simply not fair, because I, and only I, decide how much of it to give, and to whom. I know that no one can hurt me, or upset me without my conscious, or maybe subconscious, consent. Instead, I made decisions from now on to take responsibility for how I feel, how I act, and what I think. I myself am responsible for my own life, and I know that any future that I have will be the result of the decisions I make. I am who I believe in, and who I choose to be. 5. Refused value judgments. I know that each person has his own path, and it is my duty to focus on my own. I know that every time I try to judge other people, I am actually responding to something that bothers me about myself. If I believe that someone is rude, then it means that I can be rude too, and this worries me. Otherwise, how could I see it in myself? 6. Relinquish the desire to assume what others think, want, or feel. I remember that I am not them, and there is no way I can find out what they feel, and what they think. I have stopped making up imaginary scenarios in my head, and I no longer allow my mind to play games with me. Every time I start to worry about what other people do or say, I realize that it's time for me to take a sober look at reality. From Byron Katie's book, I learned to carefully examine the thoughts that bother me under a microscope, and often ask myself one simple question: is this true? After all, many of my assumptions are likely to be very far from the truth. For example, I can assume that someone does not like me, although in fact this person just had a bad day, and in other circumstances we could well get along. Or maybe this person is simply shy, and disguises her behind feigned rudeness. Not all people are the same, and don't assume that they are. The moment I realize that I simply can't know what the other person is thinking, simply because I'm not them, my mind is cleared of unnecessary thought, and I can deal with this person with an open heart and soul. 7. Relinquish the thirst to compete with other people. Now I know that the desire to beat other people is just a cry from my ego, thirsty for confirmation of my importance. But in fact, in order for me to feel worthy and significant, I do not at all need someone to necessarily lose in this or that competition. I love harmony, cooperation, and mutual benefit. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Instead, she began to build relationships with other people based on love, not fear. I believe that this world is a world of abundance, and we all have enough space in it. I believe that we live in a benevolent universe, in which there is enough of everything and for everyone, including ourselves. 8. Abandon the aimless pursuit of happiness. I no longer project my happiness somewhere into the distance, into an imaginary future, in the hope that one day, when I have that job over there, this wonderful house, car, success, and so on, I will be happy. I learned to find happiness in life's small joys, and I accept the only reality that actually exists in this world, the reality of the present, with joy and gratitude. I stopped waiting for the weekend as the only days when I felt truly alive, because I realized that every day is an invaluable gift, and that every moment of my life is equally valuable and equally important. That day, when I realized that instead of being exhausted by stress, I can enjoy life every day, everything changed radically. I am grateful for everything, and who I am, and for everything I have: a healthy body and mind, a loving family, a few real, true friends, and a job that I love. 9. Gave up worrying about the future. I accepted the simple fact that in this life there are things and circumstances that I can't control in any way, no matter how hard I try. Every time I catch myself worrying too much, I tell myself, don't worry. Time will tell. I may not always get what I want, but I always get what I need. I believe in the flow of life, and that we live in a reasonable universe, where everything has its own meaning, even if it is not immediately visible. I know that sometimes even time needs time, and there's nothing you can do about it. 10. Stopped trying to appease other people. I no longer look for external confirmation of my own significance in other people so that I can feel loved or needed. I realized that worrying about what others think of me is just wasting my time. Other people's opinions about me say much more about themselves, and about what they see in me through the lenses of their perception. They say almost nothing about the real me. I stopped expecting others to give me what I could not, or did not want to give myself: love, care, and attention. Loving yourself as a whole, body, mind, and soul, is not selfish at all. Learn to make the right decisions for the highest good, and not just my own, without worrying about disappointing other people. People frustrate themselves by setting unrealistic expectations for themselves about who they want me to be, or what they think I should be doing. Saying no when we don't want to do something we don't like is not a sign of selfishness, but of self-care, and a refusal to follow the orders of those who do not necessarily care about our interests. If someone thinks that I absolutely should do something, even if I don't think so myself, I simply don't do it. I strive for what I really like, and what I want. What is the difference? Yes, in that my desires come from within, as opposed to what they are trying to impose on me from the outside. I always decide for myself how, for what, and with whom I will spend my precious time. I know that my time is the blood of my life, and it will never be returned. My life concerns only me, and only I have the right to make decisions for me. Life exists to live, not to exist. I strive to live it the way I want it, without apologizing to anyone, and without regretting anything. Today, I continue to study at the School of Life, and every day is a wonderful opportunity for me to learn something new. I know that I have enough strength and determination to create my reality, with the help of my own thoughts. That is why I always try to feed my mind with healthy and strong thoughts, remembering that the mind has incredible power.